Welcome to our interview with the CEO of Medcan, Micael. This video has been a long time coming, so I apologise for the delays as I've had a cheeky brain operation that delayed things somewhat. It's been a while since we released something like this, so I wanted to get this out there and introduce ourselves to those of you who are new. We produced this interview because we wanted to create a series that helps demystify the UK medical cannabis industry by combining our knowledge of working in this space with supply chain hurdles, compliance and legalities, as well as being a patient myself, seeing a lot of the issues from the patient's perspective. So with this interview, I hope that it helps shed light on what's involved in growing and importing medical cannabis to the UK's medical marketplace. So who are we? We're Infinity CBD. First launched in 2019 at the Hemp and CBD Expo in the NEC, we have since gone on to produce a full line of FSA validated products in our own labs here in Pembrokeshire, ranging from day-to-day supplements to more involved wellness and pampering orientated products. We also provide educational talks and one-on-one training for those wanting to work in the CBD and medical cannabis space, hoping to help expand the UK's medical cannabis industry from the roots up. So without further delay, I want to jump into this interview with you. This was shot toward the end of last year as we finally had a slot available that lined up. So we shot down to London for the day to meet Micael and ask him some questions. So explain from a patient to in kind of layman's terms, I suppose, what you've got the facility, you've got your license. Where do you even begin in terms of genetics? Like, what were the key things for you guys when seeking out a sander and kind of?
Yeah, great question. During the 2016-2020 period, when we were building the facility, we weren't only looking at building the facility, we were looking obviously at building our knowledge and kind of understanding what's going on in cannabis, what's the market, what do patients want. And so we looked at, the major markets in the world. At the time, 2016, 2017, the UK wasn't legal, so it was Germany and Israel. Yeah. And so when we started looking at those markets, we had a few very interesting conversations with cultivators in these places, and then a lot of researchers as well spent a lot of time. They were very patient with us. And basically the line that we kept receiving was, there's the science behind the plant, and there's what's going on in the research, and then there's what patients want and what's going on in the markets. And they are relatively moving in the same direction, but they are a little bit disconnected at the same time. What's going on in the research is cutting edge stuff. It's really, I've seen it, I've been to these labs, I've seen what they're doing with cannabis, but it's really top end science that hasn't filtered down, let's say, to the patient level.
Interesting, okay.
Yeah, and essentially what the patients were saying was, we just want more THC. And so, or we just want THC. Yeah. That was kind of the understanding at the time. It's still kind of a little bit, we're getting a little bit better at understanding the interactions between THC, CBD, or the other cannabinoids, but we're still really early days, right? Patients are still only talking THC, CBD, some are talking about CBG, CBN, but there's like 100. And so when I say cutting edge science that's going on, it's the interactions between those 100, 120 cannabinoids, what's going on in the ratios and what's happening with all the different, what do the different combinations mean and what are the outcomes? That's cutting edge, the kind of stuff that they're doing. And so when we set about deciding what to grow at Medcan, it was, let's grow something that's got a decent amount of THC, because that's what we think patients want. We settled on, our first strain was birthday cake. That was, the genetics were available. We did our own pheno hunt. I think we planted a few hundred seeds, I think close to 1,000 seeds at the time. We whittled our pheno down, I think at the time, to about 4 different phenos until we settled on one, but we went from literally hundreds of seeds to one. And what they don't tell you when you're starting a medical cannabis business is what the market wants, and then there's also what works in your facility. So the birthday cake was very well received. It was a great flower. We worked really hard on it. It wasn't the best to grow in our facility. Different facilities have different needs and different areas, and depending on where you are. And so at the time we decided, the birthday cake's been great, but we need to sort of, not at the time, but later on, we needed to find something that worked for us in our facility, given our setup, given our conditions, given all of these things, which is then how we migrated then to the Tokoloshe Sherbet that's available on the market. And it's also how we've decided what we're going to grow next.
Okay.
So now we're a little bit wiser, we're a little bit better at what we do. We can kind of make those decisions and understand, okay, the Medcan facility, these are the types of things that work well in our facility. These are the strains that we should stay away from.
Got you.
And so that kind of informs our decision.
Amazing. I mean, don't have to answer this, but what were those differences? Is this an issue between kind of yield in the environment, or is this just that the plants don't typically do well under?
A number of different factors. I mean, as an example, things people don't appreciate, Johannesburg's close to 2,000 meters above sea level. That's probably got an impact.
Yeah, sure.
We're not professional scientists as Medcan, but there's definitely some influence. Johannesburg in the summer, although we're an indoor facility, we control to a very, as much as we can, the air flow coming into the facility and all the conditions.
Yeah.
Joburg in the summer is an extremely humid place, unlike sort of the UK where it's very humid in the winter.
Yeah.
Joburg is rare. There's thunderstorms in the late afternoon, so we have to consider that in terms of searching for our genetics and making sure that it can withstand these fluctuations. Although it doesn't happen so much in the facility. You know, these are so like those are two just examples of okay, that informs our decision as to what cannabis strains would work best in the facility. I'm sure, you know, if we tried all the different strains, we could probably make them all work. We are still a relatively small business. We don't have the infrastructure to be able to try hundreds of different strains, and so those factors inform our decision.
Amazing. So just going back to Islando then, I know that there's two versions available on the market, and that, as far as I'm aware, all patients are told that's strength related. Is that literally so? You know, you're picking out your phenotypes within the seeds, and these are two separate. Like, what was the intention for that?
Yeah, exactly that. So when we did the Tokoloshe Sherbet, the Islando TS, we said, okay, let's try to see if we can get a variety or a range of different. The regulation in the UK is I think what they call the major compounds or the major. I can't remember exactly the term, but you have to measure the THC, you have to measure the CBD, and that's kind of how you categorize your product. So Medcan wants to specialize in THC in high THC flower. So you know, we're looking to deliver flower that's got a lot of THC, and when we were looking at the different phenos, we decided let's try and look at a lower strength and then a higher strength THC. Exactly. And so it basically comes down to having two different phenos of the same strain. One's a lower end, let's say THC, one's a higher end THC, they're both the same strain, they're both grown with the same amount of love and care and quality, they both turn out really, really well. That's what it comes down to, is the different levels of THC.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. I mean, I'm on the 19. I have a stronger THC option for evenings, but the 19 for me in the day has been consistent for I don't know now how long. But yeah, no, it's interesting to have those choices, and it would be interesting to compare the two at some point down the line. So that's interesting.